Chosen ones, someone's mind is breaking right now because of you, not because you cursed them, not because you retaliated, but because they made the catastrophic mistake of touching someone, heaven marked as untouchable. While you've been questioning why justice took so long, they've been losing their ability to sleep, to think clearly, to maintain the facade they've worn for years. The supernatural has caught up with them, and they're discovering in the most terrifying way possible what it actually means when Scripture warns, "Touch not my anointed." You just helped them painfully learn a lesson that's destroying them from the inside out. They thought you were weak prey they could devour and move on from. They had no idea you were the bait that would drag them into divine court. Every wound they inflicted on you was being recorded. Every lie they told was being documented. Every moment they spent celebrating your pain, heaven was building a case that would make them wish they'd never learned your name. The person who wronged you isn't just facing consequences. They're experiencing a psychological and spiritual unraveling so complete that everyone watching can see something supernatural is happening. Think of it like this: they poked a lion they thought was sleeping, only to discover it was never asleep at all. It was waiting. This isn't about revenge fantasy or wishful thinking. This is about a spiritual reality that's unfolding whether you're watching or not. The people who wronged you have a track record. They've done this before to others. They've perfected their methods of manipulation and harm. But when they touched you, alarms started going off in places they can't see. Because you're not like the others. You carry an assignment that matters to the kingdom, and interfering with that assignment brings consequences that human minds struggle to comprehend. Right now, there are people who can't sleep, not because of guilt, though that's part of it. They're experiencing something far more disturbing than conscience. The supernatural has caught up with them. Something is hunting them in their dreams. They wake up in cold sweats with the feeling that they're being watched, being followed, being cornered by forces they can't name or escape. Their minds are fracturing under the weight of what's coming for them. These aren't dramatic exaggerations. Fear has taken root in them in ways that change how they move through the world. Watch them when they think no one is looking. Notice the nervous laughter that doesn't reach their eyes. See how they can't fully engage in conversations because their minds are somewhere else, constantly calculating, constantly worrying about when the other shoe will drop. They're making fear-based decisions now, scrambling to put together plans that crumble before they can execute them. Everything they touch turns to dust. Some of them have crossed into territory that psychiatry has names for, but spirituality understands better. Psychosis, a complete disconnection from reality. They're stuck between worlds now, unable to fully inhabit either one. The world they built on lies is collapsing, but the truth is too terrifying to face. So they exist in this horrible in-between space where nothing makes sense anymore, and every certainty they once had has become fluid and unreliable. God has a way of letting corrupt people run until they think they're untouchable. Forgiveness after forgiveness, chance after chance. They interpret this mercy as evidence that they're too smart to get caught or too powerful to face consequences. Then one day the mercy stops, not because God changed, but because they finally crossed a line that required divine response, and the realization that heaven was watching the whole time, documenting everything while they thought they were getting away with it. That realization breaks something fundamental in their psychology. There's a spiritual principle at work here that most people don't want to acknowledge because it's terrifying. When you deliberately harm someone who carries divine assignment, you don't just create bad karma or negative energy. You invite a very specific kind of torment that attacks the mind itself, the ability to think clearly, to feel appropriately, to behave with coherence. These faculties start to malfunction. It's as if the very consciousness that allowed them to plot against you now turns against them, becoming their own worst enemy. Watch what happens to people who mess with the anointed. They start losing grip on basic reality. Thoughts become scattered, emotions swing wildly without cause, behavior becomes erratic and unpredictable. They might have been master manipulators before, smooth and calculating, but now they can't even manipulate themselves into a moment of peace. The disorder spreads through their entire being like a virus that targets the soul. And here's what makes it worse. Many of them have been operating under demonic influence for years. They've hidden it well. The darkness worked behind their eyes, puppeting them while they maintained a convincing public face. But that's about to change. The demons that they've hosted, consciously or unconsciously, are about to manifest publicly. The mask is coming off, the performance is ending, and everyone around them is going to see what was really driving them all along. Imagine being them right now. You've built an entire life on deception. You've cultivated an image that people respect or fear. Then suddenly, without warning, the thing you've been hiding starts pushing through. Your eyes change, your voice changes, your behavior becomes so bizarre that people can't look away. It's like a zombie apocalypse of the spirit, where the infected reveal themselves not through physical decay, but through the sudden, undeniable manifestation of what they really are. That's what's coming for those who touched God's chosen. Trompandemic. There's something else happening that your enemies are just beginning to perceive. Behind their own eyes, there's another set of eyes watching. They catch glimpses of this presence in mirrors when they're not expecting it. They feel it when they're alone in dark rooms. This isn't paranoia. This is spiritual reality breaking through into their conscious awareness. The thing that's been using them, working through them, controlling them, it's becoming visible even to them. Imagine what that does to a person's sense of self. You think you're in control of your own thoughts and actions. Then you start realizing there's something else in there with you. Something that's been there all along. Something that's been feeding on your worst impulses and magnifying your darkest desires. And now that it's being exposed by divine light, it can't hide anymore. Not from others, not even from you. This is the double horror they're experiencing. The external consequences of their actions are mounting, but the internal revelation of what they've truly become is even worse. They're looking in the mirror and seeing a stranger. They're listening to their own words and hearing something else speaking through them. They're watching their own hands move and wondering who's really in control. The disconnect between who they thought they were and what they actually are is driving them into a madness that has no earthly cure. You need to understand this is not something you did to them. You didn't curse them. You didn't speak evil over them. You simply existed as someone marked by heaven. And when they touched you, they triggered a divine response that was always waiting for anyone foolish enough to cross that line. Their suffering is self-inflicted. Their torment is earned. Their unraveling is the natural consequence of violating spiritual law. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. Let's talk about what's happening behind closed doors, in the spaces you can't see but the heavens want you to know about. There's chaos erupting among those who wronged you. If it was a group that conspired against you, they're turning on each other now. The unity they had in doing you harm has transformed into bitter infighting. They're all asking the same question: how did this come back up? How did what we thought was buried suddenly get exhumed? One person got everyone involved in this mess. One person's vendetta, or jealousy, or greed pulled multiple people into a plot against you. And now that it's all falling apart, everyone is pointing fingers. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be in this situation. I thought you said you handled it. I thought you said we were safe. The blame game is vicious and endless, and none of them can rest because the fear won't let them. This is what divine judgment looks like in real time. It's not always fire from heaven or dramatic public exposure in a single moment. Sometimes it's the slow, agonizing dissolution of everything they built. Their relationships corrode, their peace evaporates, their minds become battlegrounds, and they can feel it happening, but can't stop it, because the forces they're up against don't respond to human manipulation or damage control. The evidence they thought they destroyed is being recovered. The secrets they thought were safe are being whispered in the right ears. The protection they thought they had from powerful friends or positions is evaporating like morning fog. And with each new revelation, each new crack in their armor, the panic intensifies. They're losing control, and control was the only thing that made them feel powerful in the first place. Here's something you need to recognize about yourself. You saw this coming. Long before they understood what they had activated by harming you, you knew. Your discernment picked up on the danger they were courting. You might have even warned them. Don't do this. Don't push it. You're playing with fire, you don't understand. But they laughed it off. They thought your warnings came from weakness or fear. They had no idea you were seeing prophetically into their future and trying to save them from it. This is part of why you were chosen. You carry a sensitivity to spiritual reality that most people lack. You can feel shifts in the atmosphere before they become visible. You can sense when someone is about to reap what they've sown, and when you tried to warn the people who later betrayed you, you were operating in genuine love, trying to spare them from consequences they couldn't imagine. They mistook your mercy for foolishness. They're learning the difference now. Something is coming toward you that they're not going to like. Restoration, vindication, gifts and information and opportunities that were blocked while they had their hands around your throat are about to flow freely. You're going to receive things that make their heads spin. Money they thought they'd stolen permanently. Relationships they thought they'd poisoned beyond repair. Reputation they thought they'd destroyed forever. It's all coming back, and it's coming back multiplied. You knew you'd see this day even when it seemed impossible. Deep in your spirit, beneath all the pain and confusion, there was this knowing that God doesn't abandon His own, that knowledge kept you alive through seasons that should have destroyed you. And now that knowing is about to be confirmed in ways so tangible that everyone watching will understand. You weren't crazy. You weren't delusional. You were walking in a level of faith and foresight that your enemies couldn't comprehend. Your enemies thought they had protection. They believed their own lies about having angels watching over them, helping them hide the bodies, covering their tracks. They performed rituals or said prayers or made deals that they thought would keep them safe from consequences. But they didn't understand something crucial. The very entities they thought were helping them were actually preparing them for judgment. What they interpreted as divine favor was really divine patience. What they thought was spiritual protection was really spiritual documentation. Every time they got away with something, every time it seemed like they were untouchable, the evidence was being collected. The angels weren't on their side. The angels were building the case against them. And now the case is complete, and the trial is beginning, and they're realizing too late that they never had the protection they believed in. This is why their world feels so unstable right now. The false sense of security they operated under has been ripped away. They thought they had achieved some kind of balance, some harmony between their corrupt actions and comfortable lives. They thought they could keep doing what they were doing indefinitely. But that harmony was always an illusion. It was the calm before the storm, the silence before the earthquake, the false peace before the reckoning. Now they're falling. Not off a cliff where death would come quickly, but down a jagged slope where every rock cuts them, where they roll and tumble, but never quite hit bottom because the suffering is designed to last. They can't catch themselves. They can't slow down. They just keep rolling through exposure after exposure, humiliation after humiliation, loss after loss, and every time they think they've finally stopped falling, another section of ground gives way beneath them. In the coming days and weeks, you're going to witness something that will satisfy the deepest parts of your soul that have been crying out for justice. The person who scammed you, who stole from you, who lied about you, they're going to be exposed, not quietly, not privately, but in a way that makes their deception undeniable to everyone who matters. This is specifically about your inheritance, your legacy, the things that were supposed to come to you but got intercepted by someone who saw you as easy prey. Maybe you were young when it happened. Maybe you were naive. Maybe you were trusting. They saw those qualities and decided you were a target. They thought they could take what was yours and you'd never have the power to get it back. They were catastrophically wrong. The exposure is going to reveal not just what they stole, but who they stole from. Because the real crime wasn't the theft itself. The real crime was stealing from someone marked by heaven, someone carrying divine assignment, someone whose inheritance came from God Himself. They didn't rob you, they robbed the kingdom. And kingdoms respond to theft very differently than individuals do. Imagine them being caught red-handed. The photo exists. The witness came forward. The document they forged got examined by the right expert. Whatever the mechanism, the evidence is surfacing, and their face, even if it's half hidden, even if they thought they were careful, Their face is identifiable. The jig is up, the con is over, and everyone who ever trusted them is about to learn exactly who they've been dealing with. Trump Adam Bakes. Here's what terrifies them most right now. They thought they had buried their crimes deep enough that no one would ever find them. All those skeletons they collected over the years, all those secrets they thought were safely hidden in the graveyard of their past. They believed that time and distance and careful deception had permanently concealed what they'd done. But graves don't stay sealed when heaven decides it's time for resurrection. An angel has been dispatched to that graveyard, not to keep the bodies buried, but to dig them all back up. Every single bone, every piece of evidence, every witness they thought they'd silenced, everything they believed was dead and gone is being revived for the purpose of judgment, and they can feel it happening. They can sense the earth moving over those graves. They know something is being unearthed that they desperately need to stay hidden. This is the awakening they didn't want. A revival of truth, a rebirth of justice. All those dead issues they thought would never see daylight again are coming back to life. The people they hurt before you are finding their voices. The evidence they destroyed is being recovered through supernatural means. The witnesses they intimidated are suddenly feeling brave enough to speak. It's all coming up from the grave, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. They're discovering that just because you bury something doesn't mean it stays buried. Not when divine authority decides it's time for excavation. Not when heavenly courts require evidence for the trial. Not when God himself orders the resurrection of truth. Your enemies are learning this lesson in the most painful way possible, watching as their carefully constructed lies get demolished by the very graves they thought would protect them. The breakthrough that's coming for you isn't temporary. It's not a moment of relief that fades when the next crisis hits. This is a fundamental shift in your reality that will last for the rest of your life. You're not just getting through this season. You're emerging from it, transformed and elevated beyond anything you previously imagined. Some of you are going to cry when this hits. Not tears of pain, but tears of release. The weight you've been carrying, the burden of injustice that's been crushing your chest, it's about to lift. You're going to receive information that explains things you couldn't make sense of. Patterns you couldn't see will suddenly become obvious. People you trusted who betrayed you will be revealed, and with that revelation comes freedom. You're going to be shocked by what comes to light. The extent of the conspiracy against you, the depth of the deception, the number of people who were involved. It's going to hurt initially, because betrayal always hurts when you see it clearly. But that pain is going to be washed away almost immediately by the realization that you survived all of it. They threw everything at you, and you're still standing. That's not luck. That's divine protection operating at levels you couldn't perceive. The demons that work through people to attack you are going to manifest so clearly that everyone will see them. There will be moments when you witness someone you once feared or respected acting in ways so bizarre, so obviously not normal, that the spiritual reality becomes undeniable. You'll watch their mask slip. You'll see the thing behind their eyes push forward, and instead of feeling afraid, you'll feel vindicated, because you knew something was off. You sensed the darkness, and now it's on full display for the world to see. Everything the enemy stole is coming back to you, but it's not coming back in the same form it was taken. It's coming back doubled, tripled, quadrupled, because that's how divine restoration works. The thief doesn't just return what they took. They return it with the interest that accumulates when heaven itself enforces the repayment. Your money is coming back. The opportunities that were blocked are opening up. The relationships that were poisoned are either being healed or replaced with better ones. The reputation that was dragged through mud is being washed clean and elevated. And it's happening faster than you can process because God has been building toward this moment for years. Every tear you cried, every night you couldn't sleep, every moment you wondered if you'd ever see justice, it was all being counted, and the payback is going to match the pain. This isn't prosperity gospel nonsense where you name it and claim it. This is biblical principle. When someone wrongs God's anointed, the restoration that comes isn't just about making the victim whole. It's about demonstrating to everyone watching that there are people in this world you simply cannot touch without divine consequences. You're one of those people, not because you're perfect, but because you carry assignment that matters to the kingdom. Your enemies are learning this lesson in the most painful way possible. They thought they were dealing with just another person they could hurt and discard. They had no idea they were touching someone marked by heaven, someone operating under divine protection, someone whose tears were being collected in bottles and whose cries were being recorded in books. The audacity of thinking they could harm you without repercussion is staggering, and the consequences of that audacity are now manifesting in ways that terrify them. Here's what makes this moment even more powerful. It's not just your primary enemy who's experiencing consequences. Everyone who stood by and watched, everyone who participated even slightly, everyone who knew what was happening and said nothing, they're all feeling it. The judgment isn't contained to one person. It ripples outward to touch everyone who enabled or ignored or benefited from your suffering. This is why there's so much chaos in their circles right now. They're all connected to the same spiritual crime, and they're all experiencing the same spiritual consequences, some worse than others, depending on their level of involvement, but none of them are walking away unscathed. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to plot revenge or orchestrate their downfall. You literally just have to exist and watch as divine justice unfolds. The people watching this happen are learning something they'll never forget. They're learning that some people are genuinely protected by forces beyond human power. They're learning that certain individuals carry an anointing that makes them dangerous to attack. They're learning that you can't just do whatever you want to whoever you want without considering whether that person has divine backing. This lesson is being taught through the suffering of your enemies, and everyone associated with them is taking notes. Some of them are going to try to reach out to you. They're going to attempt apologies or explanations or justifications. They're going to want to make peace because they can feel the heat and they want to get out of the fire. You don't owe them anything. You don't have to accept their sudden change of heart or their convenient spiritual awakening. Forgiveness is between you and God. But restoration isn't dependent on whether they repent. It's happening regardless. The most important thing you need to understand right now is that this isn't the end of your story. This is the clearing of the path. Everything that's happening to your enemies, all the justice that's manifesting, it's not the destination, it's the removal of obstacles that were blocking you from your true assignment. You were meant to do something significant in this world. The people who attacked you knew it. That's why they attacked you. They sensed your potential and wanted to stop it before it fully manifested. They failed. Not only did they fail to stop you, they actually made you stronger through their attacks. Every blow they landed taught you something. Every betrayal showed you who to trust and who to avoid. Every loss stripped away what was unnecessary and revealed what was essential. You're not the same person they first targeted. You've been refined by fire. You've been hardened by pressure. You've been purified by pain. And now you're about to step into a level of your calling that requires everything you learned in the wilderness. The suffering wasn't wasted. The tears weren't meaningless. The dark nights of the soul weren't random cruelty from an indifferent universe. It was all preparation. And the people who meant to destroy you accidentally participated in building you into exactly what you needed to become to fulfill your destiny. This is why chosen ones go through what they go through, not because God enjoys watching you suffer, but because the mission requires a level of strength and wisdom and discernment that only comes through fire. Regular people with regular lives could never do what you're about to do. They lack the fortitude. They lack the understanding. They lack the spiritual authority that gets forged in the furnace of unjust suffering. You have all of it now. Tronta mentions something permanent has shifted in the spiritual realm regarding you. Your enemies can feel it even if they can't articulate it. There's a line around you now that wasn't there before, an atmosphere that follows you wherever you go. People with evil intentions can sense it before they consciously understand what they're sensing. They get uncomfortable. They get nervous. They can't quite explain why they suddenly want to get away from you, but they do. This is the fruit of what you just went through. You're not just surviving, you're carrying authority. The kind of authority that makes demons tremble and manipulators reconsider. You've been marked in a new way by what you endured and how you endured it, and everyone you encounter from this point forward is going to feel something different when they interact with you. The attacks against you are going to decrease dramatically, not because the enemy has given up on stopping you, but because word spreads fast in the spiritual realm. Whatever demon or entity sent your enemies after you has watched what happened to them. It's seen the consequences of touching you, and unless it wants to sacrifice more of its workers in the same way, it's going to have to find another strategy or another target. You're too expensive now. This doesn't mean you'll never face opposition again. Your mission is too important for the enemy to completely leave you alone. But the nature of the opposition is going to change. It's going to be more strategic and less direct, more subtle and less blatant, because straight-up attacks against chosen ones who have proven their protection don't end well for the attacker. Your enemies learned this, others watched them learn it, and the lesson has been received. Everyone who watched what happened to the people who wronged you is processing a very specific message right now. They're learning in real time what happens when you touch the anointed. They're watching the consequences unfold in high definition, and they're making decisions about their own lives based on what they're seeing. Some of them had been considering coming against you. They had been plotting or planning or preparing to do you harm. But watching what's happening to your current enemies has made them reconsider. They're thinking maybe this person isn't worth the risk. Maybe there's something protecting them that I can't see. Maybe I should find another target or another method or another mission entirely. Your vindication is serving as a warning to others who might have otherwise tried you. This is part of divine strategy. God doesn't just protect you in the moment, He uses your protection as a deterrent to future attacks. By making an example of those who harmed you, He's putting everyone else on notice. Touch this one and face consequences. The judgment that fell on your enemies is like a scarecrow in a field, warning away birds that might otherwise come to steal your harvest. And the beautiful thing is that you didn't have to fight for this. You didn't have to defend yourself or argue your case or convince anyone of your innocence. Heaven fought for you while you focused on healing. Divine justice manifested on your behalf while you concentrated on recovery. And now everyone is seeing the results of what happens when heaven takes your side in a conflict. Now let me put you onto something real, Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. The inheritance that was stolen from you is being restored. But more than that, it's being secured in a way that no one can touch it again. Whatever loopholes existed that allowed the theft in the first place are being closed. Whatever weaknesses in your protection allowed the breach are being strengthened. You're not just getting back what you lost. You're gaining a level of spiritual and practical security that ensures it can never be taken again. This inheritance isn't just money, though money is likely part of it. It's legacy, it's purpose, it's the fullness of what you were meant to carry and distribute in this world. The people who stole from you were trying to stop more than your financial blessing. They were trying to prevent you from fulfilling your assignment because they knew that assignment would threaten their kingdom of darkness. But you can't stop what God has ordained. You can delay it, you can complicate it, you can make the journey harder, but you cannot ultimately prevent what heaven has decreed. And heaven decreed that you would inherit certain things, carry certain mantles, fulfill certain purposes. The theft was always temporary. The restoration was always inevitable. The only question was timing. That timing is now. Everything that was stolen is coming back to its rightful owner. Everything that was blocked is being released. Everything that was delayed is being accelerated, and the speed at which this is happening is going to make your head spin. You're going to look around at your life in 6 months and barely recognize it. That's how dramatic the shift is going to be. Chosen one, you need to understand something fundamental about what just happened. You didn't just survive an attack. You didn't just endure betrayal and come out the other side intact. You did something far more significant. You helped someone painfully discover what it really means when Scripture says, "Touch not my anointed, and do my prophets no harm." That phrase gets thrown around casually in religious circles. People quote it without understanding the weight of it. Your enemies certainly didn't understand when they decided you were an acceptable target. But they understand now. Oh, they understand now. And that understanding is destroying them from the inside out. Their minds are fracturing under the weight of what they've learned. Their lives are crumbling under the pressure of consequences they never imagined. You were the lesson, not by choice but by assignment. God used you as the demonstration model for what happens when people violate divine protection, and everyone watching has learned something they'll carry for the rest of their lives. Some people are genuinely untouchable. Some people carry real anointing. Some people have actual divine backing that manifests in undeniable ways when they're threatened. You're one of those people, not because you're perfect or special in yourself, but because you carry something from heaven that matters to the kingdom. Your assignment is important. Your mission is critical, and the forces of darkness know it. That's why they came after you so hard. That's why the attack was so vicious. They were trying to take you out before you fully stepped into your power. They failed, and in failing, they've sealed their own fate while securing yours. You're about to walk into a season of blessing and favor and breakthrough that will make up for everything you lost. The people who wronged you are about to enter a season of torment and exposure and consequences that will make them wish they had never heard your name. And everyone watching is learning that some people you just don't touch because the protection around them is real and the consequences of violating it are severe. Walk forward now in complete confidence. You've been vindicated. You've been restored, you've been elevated, and the enemies who thought they had defeated you are discovering that they actually helped prepare you for your greatest season. Everything they meant for evil, God used for good. Everything they stole, heaven is returning multiplied. Everything they destroyed, divine power is rebuilding stronger. This is your moment, this is your breakthrough, this is your vindication, and it's going to last for the rest of your life because what God has established, no human can tear down. Your enemies just helped you discover the depth of your divine protection. Now go show the world what someone with that level of backing can accomplish when they're finally free to operate in their full power and purpose.